Korea, famous for its K-pop stars like BTS and Blackpink, and its vibrant pop culture. But beneath the glitz and glamour lies a darker side few dare to talk about. Tonight on Supernatural Secrets, we're diving into Korea's most chilling ghost stories and urban legends. Stay tuned. Our first urban legend takes us to Jayuro, the infamous motorway connecting Seoul to Paju in Gyeonggi Province. With its dimly lit lanes and heavy fog rolling in from the Han River and Ilsan Lake Park, this stretch of road already has a spooky atmosphere. But what makes it truly unnerving is the tale of the ghostly woman who haunts it. So, imagine this. You're driving late at night, and up ahead you spot someone standing still in the middle of the road. At first glance, it looks like a woman casually wearing sunglasses at night. You might think, that's odd. Why sunglasses? It's not sunny and it's so gloomy out here. But as you get closer, you start to notice something's off. Those sunglasses, they look strange, too dark, too out of place. Then it hits you. Those aren't sunglasses at all. They're black, hollow spaces where her eyes should be. Holes drilled right into her head, staring back at you as you drive by. Now, this is already a terrifying thought. However, the story caught even more traction when Korean celebrities like Park Shin-ye, Park Hee-jin, and Tak Jae-hoon shared their own eerie encounters on TV. They described seeing the woman, motionless, trying to hitch a ride. The tale became so infamous that TVN even brought in an exorcist to investigate. From the investigation, the spirit was said to be a woman in her 20s who was strangled and murdered nearby. Clearly, there are skeptics out there who try to make sense of it all. They argue that it's just an optical illusion, a trick of the fog and dim lighting, or maybe just the mind playing games with tired drivers. It sounds reasonable, right? But here's the thing. When you start hearing so many people, including celebrities, all telling eerily similar stories, it makes you question those explanations. I mean, sure, the skeptic's argument might make sense, but with so many different witnesses describing the same thing, it's hard not to wonder. What do you think? Is it all just coincidence, or is there something else going on here? So, if you ever find yourself driving down Jayuro late at night and spot a woman standing in your path, take a closer look, or maybe don't. The Sack Man, or Mangtegi Halabayoji, is a name that sends shivers down the spines of Korean children. At first glance, it sounds harmless. An old man carrying a traditional Korean sack, or mangtegi, woven from straw to carry goods. Sounds a bit like Santa Claus, doesn't it? But don't be fooled. While Santa might bring gifts, the sack man brings fear. And perhaps something much worse. Legend has it, the sack man targets disobedient children. But what happens when the sack man catches you? The stories may differ, but all of them end in terror. Some say he stuffs you into his straw sack, vanishing into the darkness, never to be seen again. Others claim he drags his victims to an isolated place where he eats them slowly, methodically, leaving behind nothing but an empty sack and chilling silence. Whispers say he doesn't just take lives. Some believe the sack man keeps his victims' bones as twisted trophies, or worse, uses them to strengthen the power of his cursed sack, ensuring he can trap even more children. For generations, Korean parents have passed down this chilling tale, using it to keep their children obedient. If you don't listen, the sack man will come for you, they warn, just as their own parents once warned them. To this day, the story of the sack man lingers, a tool to keep misbehaving children in check. But how far back does this legend truly trace? Was there ever a man who prowled the streets, snatching kids away to satisfy his sinister appetite? Or is it something darker? Something supernatural, perhaps a shadowy figure lurking at the edges of human perception, waiting for the right moment to strike again? With no definitive answers, one question remains. Would you dare to find out? Another story, kind of like the Sackman, has been whispered in Korea for years. It's the legend of the Hong Kong Grandma. Let me tell you, this one gave me chills when I first heard it. So there was this old lady traveling on a plane from Korea to Hong Kong. Sounds normal, right? But something went terribly wrong. The plane never made it. It crashed. People say the woman died on impact, but here's the part that really gets under your skin. She wasn't alone on that flight. She had a cat with her, and just before she let out her last breath, something unnatural happened. No one can explain it, but somehow her soul and the cat's, they merged. Yeah, you heard me. People say her spirit didn't just move on, it turned into something terrifying. She became this half-human, half-cat thing. And that's when the nightmare began. Now they say she roams the streets at night looking for children. She's got these glowing, piercing eyes, like a predator's, and she moves like one too. Imagine this. She can slink through shadows like a cat, silent and quick. And then, out of nowhere, she can sprint faster than you can run or leap to the top of a building before you even have a chance to scream. And those claws, they're not human. People say they're long and sharp, like they're meant for grabbing and not letting go. When she has you in her grip, you're done for. Some stories say she takes kids away to some dark place where no one ever finds them. Others say she eats them. Parents used to warn their kids, don't stay out after dark or the Hong Kong grandma will get you. And it wasn't just talk. Kids back then were genuinely terrified. Some even swore they saw her. One kid claimed he saw her crouched on a rooftop, her glowing eyes staring straight at him. Another said he heard scratching at his window one night and found claw marks on the glass the next morning. This story wasn't just some schoolyard rumor either. It got so big that it made the news. Can you believe that? Back in 1989, it was on NBC News. But here's the weird thing. There's no record of any plane crash like the one in the story. So, where did this tale even come from? Was it just a way for parents to scare their kids into coming home on time? Or is there something more to it? I don't know about you, but the thought of those glowing eyes watching me from the shadows? I wouldn't stick around to find out if it's real or not. Staying late at school might sound unusual to some of you. Maybe you're imagining hanging around until 4 or 5 p.m. at most. But in Korea, especially in the past, it was a whole different world. Schools often remained open well into the night, sometimes until 10 or 11 p.m. for self-study sessions. Sounds productive, right? But this might not be as great an idea as you think, because this one will make you rethink staying late at school. It's the story of the Kong Kong ghost, a haunting tale whispered among students who had no choice but to study late into the night at school. It all began with a girl who could never quite reach the top. She was brilliant, sure, but no matter how hard she worked, she was always second best. Her parents, relentless in their expectations, drove her harder and harder until the pressure became unbearable. But there was one person who stood in her way, the top student. That girl had everything: perfect scores, praise from teachers, and admiration from their classmates. The jealousy was a slow burn at first, but eventually it consumed her. One fateful night, she decided she couldn't take it anymore. She led the top student to the school rooftop, saying she wanted to share some notes and prepare for an upcoming exam. But as they stood at the edge, with the city lights glowing faintly in the distance, her intentions turned dark. With one swift push, she sent the other girl plummeting to her death. The body was found the next morning, head smashed against the pavement. The murderer had staged the scene to look like a suicide, and for a while, everyone believed it. But the truth doesn't stay buried forever. Not long after the girl's death, strange things began to happen. Late at night, when the classrooms emptied and the hallways stretched long and silent, a new kind of fear settled over the school. It started with faint noises, a dull, rhythmic thud echoing through the corridors. Then came the sightings, a shadow darting between desks, a figure lingering just out of sight. Those unlucky enough to encounter her described a horrifying apparition, a girl in a blood-stained uniform, her head twisted at an unnatural angle. She moved with eerie jumps, her head slamming into the floor with every leap. And that's where the name Kong Kong Ghost comes from, the sound of her head thumping against the ground as she searches for her next victim. And here's the terrifying part. It's said she doesn't care who you are. Maybe she's looking for revenge against her killer. But if you're alone in the school after dark, you might just be the one she finds. Imagine it. You're in a classroom, the clock ticking closer to midnight. The hallways are empty, the lights are dim, and suddenly, you hear it. It's faint at first, like it's coming from far away, but then it grows louder, closer. The sound echoes, and your heart pounds, as you realize it's heading straight for you. So, if you ever find yourself at school late at night, with nothing but the silence and shadows to keep you company, remember the Kong Kong Ghost. Would you be brave enough to wait and see if she appears? Elevators might seem like the safest place to some, being small, familiar, and entirely predictable. But in Korea, the mere act of stepping into one lined with mirrors can feel like a gamble with the supernatural. Why? Because of the elevator mirror ghost. It starts with the mirrors, those endless reflections that stretch into infinity. So, close your eyes and picture this. Late at night, you step into the elevator alone. The doors slide shut and the world outside disappears, leaving only you, or so you think. Legend says that among the infinite reflections, something evil hides. As you glance at the rows of your mirrored self, you might notice something odd. You notice that one reflection is just a little out of sync. Maybe its smile lingers too long, or its eyes seem fixed on you rather than following your every movement. The closer you look, the more certain you are that that's not you. Koreans say to fear the 4th and 13th reflections in particular, because that's where the ghost lurks, watching, waiting. They say it's not human, but a spirit trapped in the mirrors, yearning for freedom. And if you dare to make eye contact with this doppelganger, it seals your fate. The ghost will mark you, and soon after, you'll meet a death no one can explain. And the worst part? It doesn't stay still. Even if you freeze in fear, it doesn't. You might catch it tilting its head when you don't, or stepping closer while you remain rooted in place. That moment of realization that it's no longer your reflection could be your last. Even today, many Koreans avoid looking too deeply into elevator mirrors, especially if they are alone. After all, how can you be sure that what's staring back is really you? That's it for today's journey into the eerie world of Korean ghost stories. These tales might not seem as terrifying at first glance, but their deep roots in Korean folklore have kept generations awake at night, shivering under their blankets. From the ghostly Kong Kong to the haunting reflections in elevator mirrors, these legends remind us of the chilling grip of fear that folklore can hold. So, whether you believe them or not, remember, Sometimes it's better not to look too closely into the dark. Who knows what might be staring back at you? Until next time, stay vigilant, stay curious, and may the mysteries of the supernatural continue to captivate your imagination. This is Supernatural Secrets signing off.